Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to and thank you all for joining us today for this very special Pride Month event. How can we be better supporters of the LGBTQ plus community? Presented to you by Toastmasters International District 76, Division H, Area H2. My name is Tiffany, and I am a proud transgender woman, the host of the Breakfast with Tiffany Show podcast, and the leader of the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. It is truly an honor to be here with all of you as we come together to celebrate Pride and deepen our understanding of allyship. Before we begin, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I really think your presence and commitment to learning and supporting the LGBTQ plus community is incredibly valuable. And together we will make a powerful impact. Pride Month is a time for us to celebrate the progress we've made, acknowledge the challenges we still face, and commit to supporting one another in our journey towards equality and acceptance. Today, we have an incredible opportunity to learn from each other, share our experiences, and grow as allies and members of the LGBTQ plus community. But before we start our panel discussion with our distinguished guests, let me introduce you to our Toastmasters area director. And I would definitely say she is the best ally of our community. Without her approval, this virtual event will not happen. So let's all welcome Misko Kurihara with a virtual round of applause.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to be a part of this phenomenal event alongside our wonderful guests and Tiffany. My Toastmaster journey began over 20 years ago, and this year marks my first serving as an area director. One of my primary responsibility of the area director is club visiting. While Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club is one of my areas, one of the clubs in my area. So I have visited Tokyo Rainbow Club several times this year. That's how I met Tiffany, the club president of Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. Please allow me to share my impression about Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. The members exhibit outstanding speaking abilities and possess a warm and friendly demeanor. Their eagerness to learn is palpable, fostering strong sense of camaraderie among them. This year, a member of a club emerged victorious in the division speech contest, Japanese speech contest. I have closely followed her journey, witnessed the progression and the refinement of her speech from the initial stage to the district contest. It is evident that the club members relate together to support her. Additionally, the club boasts the All Japan 2023 Japanese speech contest champion, Toastmaster Yoko Tabata. Tokyo Rainbow Club stands out a remarkable organization. I invite you to seize this opportunity to discover more about them. Engage with their members and consider becoming a part of their Toastmaster community. Even if you're not a Toastmaster, I am confident that you will enjoy your time with us and super fantastic two guests. Thank you. Back to you, Tiffany.
Thank you so much, Miss Kosang. I really appreciate this. So kind words and very insightful about our club, the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. Thank you so much. And I definitely agree that even though you're not a part of Toastmasters Club yet, you will learn a lot from today's panel discussion and our communities and the clubs that we are all belong. After all that, this is where all the leaders are made. So I definitely agree with that. And so before I want to have our panelists here, I want to have a brief introduction about them. By the way, our event will begin with a panel discussion with our distinguished guests, where we will be having dive deep. We will be deeper into the topics of allyship and support, followed by a Q&A at the end of the panel discussion. So we really encourage you to participate actively. You can ask questions, share your thoughts, and engage with us in this very important dialogue by writing on the chat function. We will make the chat function available for you to write down your comments and your questions. So without further ado, I am thrilled to introduce our amazing guest speakers who bring a wealth of experience, passion, and insights to today's discussion. First, let me introduce Celia Daniels. Celia is a powerhouse with over 25 years of success in managing and leading large strategic programs for Fortune 500 companies like Capgemini, Cognizant, Amgen, and Genentech. As a gender non-binary transgender woman, she has dedicated her career to promoting health equity, talent acquisition, and compliance within DEI initiatives. Celia's personal journey and professional expertise add a deeply enriching perspective to our conversation today. Our second panelist is Mana Tanaka. Mana is the co-founder of Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club and a dedicated advocate for social justice and LGBTQ plus rights. With almost 15 years of international experience, including an MPA degree from Columbia University and impactful work in countries like India, Ethiopia, and Pakistan. Mana's commitment to creating inclusive spaces is truly inspiring. She is also the co-founder of and chairperson of the Munakata Foundation, providing grants in Pakistan and Malawi. And this Pride Month, she is self-publishing her first essay, Rainbow Pride and International Cooperation. So today's event is all about fostering meaningful conversations around allyship. We will explore what it means to be a true ally, how we can support each other more effectively, and the practical steps we can take to create a more inclusive world. Let me call on stage Mana Tanaka. Hold on. And Mana Tanaka, I would like for you to share, your experience as a Toastmasters.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for your amazing introduction. So, hello, everyone. My name is Mana Tanaka, and I am the co-founder of the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. So, when I established the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club, I was the only semi-open lesbian, and the two other founders, one is Paul Malone, very, very powerful gay Toastmasters. He's also the distinguished Toastmaster. As well, Keita, he is a very active activist of the gay Toastmasters member. So Celia started the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club in 2016. And that time, it was very hard to going through the process of collecting 25 eligible members, because many of the LGBTI people in Japan are in the closet. So they're not willing to open up and then join our club. So even though we have been telling them that it's a safe space, whatever you spoke here will never go outside, and we make a ground rule and everything was hard. So one thing I still recall is that I convince every single lesbian and gays I come across saying that, look, communication skill, which Toastmasters offer, is crucial in your life, because our life is not easy. We constantly make effort to make ourselves understood. And it is not simple. So communication skills are so essential and crucial for your survival. And that's really the tag I use there for every person I met. And that's something Toastmasters can offer greatly to your life. And then secondly, once people start coming and then we inaugurated the club, we made so much effort to find the proper mentorship. because one-on-one mentor is so crucially important in a Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club, especially. So being a lesbian woman and a little bit senior, a little bit well-trained in public speaking, I was a mentor of a two gay fresh person who are newly joined the Toastmasters Club. And then Paul Malone, like he's the second best speaker in the District 76. He was the mentor of two lesbians who newly joined the club. And there was the strong ally of Suji Shibako Takako. And Suji Takako would become the mentor of several like a gay men. So we did like intentionally the cross-gender and then cross-experience the mentorship so that through the mentorship, also people can grow. Not only the atmosphere of the nice feeling and a nice ambience and safe space, but also the mentor and then correspondence with mentor, we thought was the very crucial part to make a club strong. And the last but not least, we introduced some fun part of for the Tokyo Rainbow. It's called the Rainbow Moment of the Week. And it's just an ice break in the very beginning of the meeting. Every time we have this rainbow moment of the week, that everyone share maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, that what's colored you this week, like something colorful. It's not necessarily about the LGBTQ issues, but it can be anything like you feel the diversity or, your heart cheered up and warm up during this week. So yeah, this rainbow moment of the week continues. And then I'm still happy that seeing the Tokyo Rainbow glowing so much. And we finally got the champion last year. I was like, oh my goodness, this is something I dreamed of when we started the Toastmasters Club. Because there was the people, especially Keita, was so reserved about the contest because you need to open up your personality and then tell your name. So quite a few people actually are in the closet and they are reluctant to appear on the contest, even as the supporters like the timers and then gatekeepers and all these roles that they are reluctant to take it. But now it's changing and I'm so happy that we finally got the champion last year. And then hopefully we want someone to be a champion in English so that someone from the Tokyo Rainbow will go through District 76 and then go to the international. All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mana-san. First of all, I would like to say thank you to you because you're the one who recruited me to be part of the Toastmasters, and it really opened my eyes to more potential of being a good leader and also improving my skills in speech. So I'm really grateful for you for really opening me up to the Toastmasters community, and I definitely agree. It's really great to hear, by the way, all the history behind of how you started the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. And I definitely agreed. And the Tokyo Rainbow moment of the week is my favorite part of the entire meeting. So thank you so much for implementing that. Okay, so let me call on our next panelist all the way from California joining us, Celia Daniels.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Right now in California, it's around 11.
Almost
15.
midnight, right? Thank you for joining us, Celia.
Yeah, no, I just had dinner with some of my friends and, just came over here. My wife is going to charge the car. So I thought it'll be a good time for me to be part of this amazing conversation because I feel that a lot of times we are, as Mana was talking about, how important it is for our community to be able to tell our story in a powerful way. I can share a lot more experience on that. I think I remember the first time I shared my story. My life was very, I've gone through a lot in my life. And especially while I was talking about my story in the childhood experiences, I started tearing up and I was emotionally overwhelmed. And every time I talk about certain aspects of my childhood, I would start tearing up because it was really hard. And I was just stumbling with words. I used a lot of vocal spikes and I was not focusing on what exactly I wanted to say. And, I grew up in India. I grew up in a southern part of India. It's called Chennai. And the accent is very strong in Chennai, where sometimes you tend to speak a lot more in the Indian British English. And that's what we learned. But then when I came to the US, we had to learn a little bit of the American way of talking, and especially the words. But I have not changed my communication style. Toastmasters is not about learning to speak like an Englishman or learning to speak like an American. It's not about the accent, it's about the grammar. It's about telling a story in a powerful way. And I still have my accent. In fact, English is my third language. It's not my second language. It's not my first language. So it's very important for me to really take a grasp within my own culture, within my own, and then talk about it. So I learned to tell my story in a powerful way. And I have been going to a Toastmasters. We started here. It's called Diversity Toastmasters. And this is a different kind of Toastmasters because it is for friends and allies of the LGBTQ community. And it was so different from the irregular Toastmasters because there's a lot of fun involved. Sometimes we just joke around, we do a lot of fun stuff. We have chocolates, we have so many other things going on in the room. We decorate the room, we have balloons, we have a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And most importantly, a lot of allies from other Toastmaster clubs, they used to come and attend ours because they found that our Toastmaster was so interesting. And in fact, the area district distinguished Toastmasters, they all used to come to our club because we were the fun club. And we really enjoyed a lot in that space. The interesting thing I learned about the Toastmasters, especially in diversity Toastmasters, is it was started by a movie producer. I live in LA. It's pretty close to Hollywood. So a lot of folks, they have their roots in the movie industry or in the media industry. So the person who started was a movie producer, and he is a public speaker. I was so amazed at the way he was picking up conversation, the way he was capturing the audience. And he was so slow, and the way he spoke was so crisp. And he would just take you to that situation. He would take you to that moment. And to me, that was important because I was looking for that. It was not about just orating a lot of language and just putting a bunch of words and just talking about stuff, but able to tell my story in an effective way. And to me, that was really important. I was fascinated with this person. And then I started learning from him. I learned from some of the best of the industry. And once I started, almost 7 years, I've been with Toastmasters, Diversity Toastmasters. I was the president of the Toastmasters last year. And we also got the distinguished Toastmaster Club for so many years, I think since the time we started. The reason is we are really good in what we do and also able to tell a story. There were lots of resources we have used in the Toastmasters. There are so many. If you go into the toastmasters.org portal, there's so much of data, there's so much of information that we can learn from. And I utilized all that. Even it'll record your presentation and tell you what kind of vocal spikes you make and the grammatical mistakes you're making. So it's able to really make a difference. And I remember 25 years back, I was in a corporate world and I was always thinking that my English is so good. And I was so proud of my English. And I thought I'm so good in what I do. And there was a session that was taking place where it was about effective communication. And they recorded each and every one of us and then they played it back to us. I saw my video and I was really upset. I was thinking about, oh my God, really suck. It's so bad. I'm using so many vocal spikes and I was like, so much of that. And I didn't know what to do. I wanted to change, but I didn't have the time because I was running a large business and I was giving business presentations to people and I was interacting with my clients. I had customers. And most importantly, I was able to talk, but I was just going based on what I knew. I didn't have the time to learn. But once I started learning to really communicate, slowing down is the most important thing that I learned. In India, when you speak, if you speak English fast, people think that you're good in English. Actually, it's a wrong myth. Speaking good English is slowing down and really effectively and pausing between words is so important. And I learned that. I was able to tell my story, and now I'm a keynote speaker for so many events. And I'm able to do podcasts, webcasts. I'm able to record videos, and I'm able to share because I'm able to pause like I'm doing right now. As I pause, I'm able to communicate and say the right words and use the right words and say the right thing. It's been an amazing journey, and especially if you're here, you'll be excited by all the conversations we're going to have. And even Toastmasters helped me with my interviews. When I have done interviews with my clients, it was very interesting. I was able to put the storyline together and I was able to communicate in a much better way. And I have aced most of the interviews. Some of them I have not got the job, but the interview was always to the par, really good. And I could feel that I have done a great job. And that's what I learned. And I definitely, it's thanks to the Toastmasters. And what we have done is, this is a great organization that was started in the early 40s or 50s, I don't know. But it's such an amazing organization. And I'm so excited to be part of this, especially in Tokyo, with you folks, because um, part of the Asian culture, right? I'm a South Asian, and you're all from Southeast Asia. A lot of our culture is closely related. And we're going to talk about bringing the eastern part of the world into the western part of the world, where I lived in India, and I have lived half my life in India, half my life in the US. There's a lot of experience that I can talk about. And we are also going to give you some ideas about being a wonderful ally to the community. So I'm happy to be here. As Tiffany was talking about, my personal life, I have my wife. I'm married to a cisgender woman, and my daughter's cisgender, and they both are super accepting and very loving. So I'm so blessed to have a wonderful family and good friends. So glad to be here and be a part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Celia. I really hope like the audience who is not part of the Toastmasters are already getting the idea of what Toastmasters is really is. And I completely agree with everything what you've said. And I still learn a lot, like even up until now from you, Celia, and also from Manasang. Um, slowing down when you speak is very important. I also came from a country where in the Philippines, like what you said, when we speak English and it the tendency is like they tend to speak faster, but it's actually not true. I agree with like slowing it down because we're not native in English. So I definitely agree with that. So let me call on Manasang again on the stage to start on the um our conversation about allyship. But before that, since in Celia, for you now is probably still midnight, before midnight. In Japan now it's already June 1st. It's Pride, officially Pride month now in Japan, and yay. My first question to both of you is, what is Pride to you? Can we start off with Manasang?
Yes, Tiffany, thank you. Well, the Pride Month become very huge event for the past few years, largely because the corporate sectors in Japan start including the terminology like pride, diversity and inclusion, LGBTQIA into their corporate structures and as well the consumer surveys. So yes, it's becoming a huge thing, but at the same time, it is very difficult to find the real allies in a sense that the people who really supported when we started the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club, we are doing the meeting every first and third Saturday, I think, from like 2 hours in the evening. And that's a commitment. that's a commitment. I mean, like I'm a lesbian. I want to improve my English. I want to improve my speech. I want to look after some people as the mentors. But see, I mean, what's the allies' motivation to be there, sacrificing a very good 2 hours every not every, but every bi-weekly Saturday night, and then engage themselves into this club. So I really, really appreciate the people who really, really hardcore allies supported to establish the Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club and committed themselves uh, every bi-weekly 2 hours to support us and raise us and mostly to help others to grow. So I think that's the really, really authentic pride and allies that we got in the Tokyo Rainbow. So yeah.
Thank you, Mana-san. How about you, Celia? What for you? What is pride to you?
Pride is living our life authentically. If you take the history and the civilization of human beings, we live in a society that is so binary. We live in a society that is very much towards people who call themselves normal. And there were a lot of people like us in dawn of civilization since I would say, I mean, I'm going way back into the civilization where people were, right from the evolution of man, there were always people who are different. The queer community lived through different centuries and in different civilizations. One thing that I've seen is they were not able to come out. And every time they came out, people looked at them and said, "You're not normal. Go back. Just go and hide. You need to hide. You can't live in our society." And they were living in the fringes of the society. They were living in the edge of humanity where they were not part of the society. They were always ostracized. And when people started to come out, when they started to come out and they started to speak up, like Alan Turing, this person was an amazing person who saved so many lives during the World War. But just because he's gay, this man was confined in his house and he committed suicide. If you talk about Lynn Conway, she is the one who actually invented the chip in your phones. So if you take your iPhones and if you start looking at it, she was working in IBM and she invented and she worked with some of the hardware engineers to come up with this chip. And when they found that she came out as a transgender person, she was fired by IBM. Of course, IBM apologized. But people like us who are always been a part of the community, who have been always part of humanity, were demonized, were polarized. And that's the problem we have. Coming out is what is pride. So pride to me is being out there, visible, and authentically able to speak up and stand up and show up for who I am, not just for me, but for people like me who are still in the closet. And I'm so proud of who I am, but I also feel sad for a lot of people who are not able to come out today. And pride is also for them. They may be in the closet, you may be in this call, and you have not probably come out. But the important thing is pride gives you the sense of belonging. It gives you the sense of who you are. And that is what is pride to me. And it really helped me a lot, especially with coming out. And I'll share some of this in the later part of our conversation. But pride is being radically different and showing the world that you are exactly like anyone else in this planet. So pride is a special time for us to be really authentic.
Thank you so much, Celia. Sense of belonging. Oh, I love those words. Let's go to pronouns. In Japan, I think Manasan can probably explain it a little bit because we in Japan we don't use pronouns, but in America it's so important how to use pronouns, and I think that's one part of like showing you being an ally if you use your pronouns and supporting the community. What's your thought on using pronouns, Manasan?
Yes, actually, being like my mother tongue is Japanese, so I don't really understand this concept, to be honest,
Mm.
initially, especially like a they, them thinking things. Like because I learn English as a second language and they is a plural form. So using they, them for a singular person sounds, I'm sorry, still odd to me. But yes, I think it's slowly, especially the corporate sector when we write our name. And anyway, pronoun is things like I have to be cautious because Japanese names, many of the people like, Erika, Sayaka, whatever, people don't know whether it's a woman or man, right? So we anyways posted like whether it's a miss or doctor or whatever the pronouns you want to be used under the footnote or whatever your signature parts. So that because Japanese name itself, it doesn't really make it clear like what's the pronoun of you. So yes, it's been there and then it's coming. And then in Japanese context, when we refer the kids, we use not the pronoun but whether it's a chan, like at the end of
Mm.
the name, like a mani mani chan, then that's a girl. And in nani nani kun, which is the boy. And
Mm.
then in Japanese school system that we start using san as a little bit of respective form, not initially never used for the kids. But nowadays, given like there are so many gender fluid kids, so many of the primary schools in Japan start using a san instead of chan or kun, which is more like a gender specific way. So yeah.
Mm. Thank you for that, Manasang. And I think Celia will explain to us the use of pronouns very well. And I think Celia's explained that to me before. So Celia, what's your thought on pronouns?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mana, because Mana, is it okay to call you Mana? Or
Yes, please call me Mana. Yes, yes.
So I was just, I'm also learning from this call because in every culture, pronouns sometimes make sense, sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I remember working for a multinational company and I was implementing pronouns for them. I called their corporate office and one of the corporate office in Singapore. And I was talking to the HR and I said, I'm here to implement pronouns. And she laughed at me and said, Celia, it doesn't make sense for us. We don't use pronouns. And I said, why? She said, no, we don't use pronouns. It doesn't make sense for us. So here's the thing. I explained that to her in a different way. And this is my thinking. And I was able to convince her in a different way. So we are working in a virtual world now. We are living in a world where we have people from different parts of the world working in our offices. There's a person from Europe who's joining the call, and their name is Riley. There's a person from China who's joining the call, and their name is Kim. Another person from Japan who is joining the call. Maybe their name is Bo. And there's a person from India who's joining the call. Their name is Ashu. We don't know Ashu is male or female, or they, them. We don't know. And a lot of them are not on the video because, due to the time difference. And all they hear is the voice and the name. And people from different parts of the world, especially in the Western world, or even in the Eastern world, like even from India, I don't know who is on the call. And I don't want to be disrespectful by misgendering them. And it's important for us when we put a pronouns there, they say, okay, this, we can put Kim, she, her, or Bo, they, them, Riley, he, him. Now, people from different parts of the world will know that this person wants to be identified as male and wants to identify as female. And when I use the pronouns they, them, she, they, it means that when you see they in a pronouns, it means that this person is gender non-binary. And when you see she, that means they're leaning more towards the feminine side of the gender non-binary spectrum. So within the transgender spectrum, you have both binaries and non-binaries. I usually explain this with a slideshow, but I'm going to just explain to you verbally. Trans community is a spectrum where you have binary and non-binary. Especially within the binaries, people transition from male to female or female to male, and they use she or he pronouns. When you come to the non-binary side of the trans community, it's a spectrum. It's not just male or female. Sometimes people choose between the spectrum, like gender fluid, gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, agender, bigender. There's so many varieties of people who identify within the gender spectrum. And when I first came out, I was identifying as gender fluid, and I was moving between male and female. So I was using he, him pronouns and she, her pronouns, and it got really confusing. And when I started transitioning my life more as Celia, it made sense for me to use she and also they, because I identify as gender non-binary. Though I'm more trans femme presenting, I like to use she and they. Now, pronouns are used in three ways, right? One is first a person using pronouns because they're part of the LGBTQ community, they're trans and gender diverse community, and they're using pronouns. The second is especially what I explained in a call, in a virtual setting. When a person uses pronouns, anybody can use pronouns. It's not just for the LGBTQ community. Anyone can use the pronouns. So that is, it really helps in doing identifying who you are. And the third one is very important because you are an ally to the community and you want to use pronouns because you want to help somebody. So let me tell you with an example. I walked into a grocery store and I saw a trans person in the grocery store. And I wanted to talk to her because she looked like she was very cautious. She was trying to be careful about how she is presenting, and I wanted to be friendly with her. So I walked up to her and said, "Hey, my name is Celia. My pronouns are she and they. How about you?" And you should see her eyes are like sparkling because she found someone who knows exactly and how they want to address. So that's what you do when you approach a person and you know they are trans, or even if they're not trans. It's easy. So these days you never know whether a person is trans or not because they are so much blended into the gender culture. Sometimes people, you want to use the pronouns. It's not about being trans, but they want to use certain pronouns. And so it's really helpful. As an ally, the first thing you want to do is acknowledge your pronouns and then tell them, hey, my pronouns is this. What about you? If you see the corporate world, there was a guy who actually got into a call and he was on a phone with me and he was talking to me and he said, am I talking to Celia Daniels? And I said, yes, I'm Celia Daniels. Within just a couple of minutes in the call, he said, are you Celia Daniels? And I said, yes, I am Celia Daniels. And he said, you sound like a man. And I told him, did you look at my resume? Did you look at my LinkedIn profile? Because this is a senior director position. You should have done your homework before calling me. Did you look at my profile? Do you even know who you're talking to? His answer was very rude. He said, I didn't do it. That's why I'm calling you. It was really one of the Fortune 100 companies, very reputed, and I needed that job. And I was also thinking that, no, this is not going well. And he said, and they started talking, and I started talking, and I thought, let me just go ahead, and we were going on with our conversation, and then again he stopped me and said, "Okay, I'm not sure if you're Celia," and I got so upset, and I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Are you truly Celia?" And I said, "I am Celia, and this conversation is over right now, because what you said is actually a harassment. You're just insulting me because you have not done your homework." And I don't, and he was very angry and he said, "Are you sure? Okay, here's the thing. Do you want this job or not?" I said, "I don't want this job, and especially not with you." And I banged the phone. I put it on LinkedIn and I said, if a recruiter is an ambassador of the company, this is what they need to do. They need to at least respect the person because my resume says clearly she and they. And at least he could have used the she pronouns. And he knew my name is Celia. But this is what happens in a company where you are very performative. They fly the rainbow flags, but they don't know how to respect a person. And in fact, that company had a corporate equality index of 100%, HRC. They're performative. They have and rainbow flags flying all over the place. But if they don't know how to address the trans person, if they don't take you seriously, if they don't respect you, then there's no point in having these rainbow pinkwashing. It doesn't work. I put it on LinkedIn and I said, this is what happened. And I just woke up the next morning and I had almost 2.4 million views on LinkedIn. And people have written so many things because there are a lot of recruiters today in the world, across the world, who are looking at my resume. And there were people from India who actually wrote to me saying that, hey, you're a trans person, someone gives you a job, take it. And I said, you know what? I don't take that kind of job. I'm not that cheap. I don't take that kind of job. I don't need that job because that's not the way the companies need to hire. And this was a big story. My life, that experience was a big story, and it was featured all over. And for one day, I was the headline in LinkedIn. After my post, then came the Ukraine war. And this is just one day. I was celebrating for that one day. It was fun. But it was an interesting story. I say this story because pronouns are not just about this, but when this person did not see me and when he heard my voice and when he saw my pronouns, he could have easily respected me with the pronouns, but he chose to go by my voice rather than what I had written in my resume. So it's so important that we do this. Another thing I will tell you, Anna, when I looked at the Shakespeare language, right? When you looked at Pickwick Papers, when you read some of these old novels like Pyro and especially the murder mysteries in the 16th century and the 17th and 18th century, a lot of that has been referred as they for a singular person. So even in the King James Version, they refer to God as they, thou art. It's just a way of respect, or it's just a way of just describing a person. And when Charles Dickens has written Pride and Prejudice, they have used they, them, they pronouns for singular. And it's an old Shakespearean way of respecting a human being. It's always been there, but it's not been incorporated, like you said, into the local languages. In India, they, them is part of your local language. In fact, my wife used to call me they, them, and every wife calls the husband they, them. It's a way of respecting them, and it's part of the culture. But in some cultures, you don't have that language. But in English, going back to Shakespearean language, and this they, them has been most used in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. I think in 2020 or one of those years, it was much used because of the fact that there were a lot of people who were identifying in that spectrum. And people don't want to be boxed into male or female. Like I love being gender non-binary. To me, I love that living on the edge kind of thing. Sometimes I don't, wear my beautiful dresses. I'll just go with I'll pull my hair back and I'll just go with a sweatshirt and to the Home Depot. Sometimes people look at me and they call, hey, sir. And I'm like, oh, not sir, but I'll go with it. So it's interesting for us how pronouns are being used. So the three things I want to mention is one is pronouns are used by people within the community, trans and gender diverse. The second is it's culturally diverse too. Like when you're from a different country, you can use pronouns to make sure that you're at least telling the person from another country that you're this person when your video is not on. Third one is as an ally. You can use pronouns to show your support to the group. So that's the way I actually implemented pronouns. And now this $26 billion pharmaceutical company has implemented pronouns. And people across the world, even in China and India, have started using pronouns. It was and Japan as well. They have an office in Japan and Hong Kong. And they started using pronouns because now they got it. And I was able to tell, but if I was an American, I'm an American citizen, but I'm still an Indian by birth. If I was an American or a Caucasian, I would never understand this concept. But since I was an Asian Indian, I was able to take the American pronouns and make it work for on a global setting. And that made it much more interesting for people. So that's an interesting thing, right? When you really look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Celia.
Sorry, can I add one thing?
Sure, sure, go
This
ahead,
is
Mana.
Celia mentioned this cultural aspect. So it's not the pronouns, but actually I had a very interesting experience living in Ethiopia, India, and Pakistan. For example, in Pakistan, people always call me Madam. Even though I say I'm not married, it doesn't matter. Someone, the respective women always need to be called Madam. So I was always the Madam Tanaka. And a much more funny thing is when I was working in a rural part of Ethiopia, every single hotel staff said to me like a sir. And then I had a long hair and everything. So I say like, I'm sorry, stop it. I'm not sir. I'm a woman. At least you can say madam or, mom or whatever. But they say like, mom, in Ethiopian context, madam or women will never be promoted as the project managers, having your own project car, having your own driver, having your own staff, and having a $500 million budget. You are sir. So we cannot call you in a pejorative way, labeling you as if you were just a mom. So sir is the only thing I can use it for you from the perspective of our own culture. So I just let it go. I was like, oh. It's funny, like, I'm gender fluid. I love to be called like a brother once in a while. So, it was like 2 years in Ethiopia. I was just kept mentioned by the sir, by every single hotel staff. So that's just so you know. So what I wanted to say is like a pick your battle. See, I mean, in Japan or in our cultural context, you cannot make everyone understood. And I would say pick your battle. If you want yourself to be understood, just use the pronoun or you explain yourself. But otherwise, let it go. Okay. I mean, whether it's a sir, whether it's a mom, whether it's a madam, whether it's a, I sometimes call like a benji or a bahai, or, in the Indian cultural context means like a female mafia leader or whatever, people say it to me, like whatever they want to be called. And then I never pick that kind of bottle. I just pick the bottle. It is extremely important to keep your mental sanity and then pick your bottle. Don't make your effort to make everyone understood, and that's a very important survival skills. I always tell to the younger lesbians that just pick your bottle, don't do everything every time,
Yeah,
that's
thank
it.
you so much, Manasang, for saying that. I actually have the same experience in the Philippines. So I just wanted to quickly share that the sir ma'am thing in the Philippines also exists. And this was back like the last time I was in the Philippines 10 years ago. And I visited Philippines like last year because my father passed away. And I thought like the concept of LGBTQ people in the Philippines have changed, but unfortunately not. So when they found out that you're trans, in the beginning they will call you ma'am based from your looks. If you're wearing a dress, if you have a long hair, if you look like a woman, they will call you ma'am. But once they found out that you're trans, they will call you sir. They will change it. And before, I didn't have the capacity to like explain them or like ask them questions. But this time, I really told them that you can call me sir because I'm a ma'am. And after that, I didn't have a conversation. I just addressed it. I just told them like this is how I want to be called. And I think that's the same with you, Manasan. Like also like being able to just let them know what you wanted to be called. And I think that's so important for us because a lot of people they probably think that, oh, she's a she, so maybe like we call her or she, and if you say him, like so. I think addressing also is important, but I agree like pick your battle. And also thank you so much, Celia, for walking us through the pronouns. Pronouns is just like one topic that we can probably talk like for hours and hours. Yeah, so thank you for both of your insights about pronouns. And I want to ask Celia, so in these companies or like the community workspaces, what strategies can allies do employ to create more inclusive and welcoming environments for the LGBTQ plus individuals?
I think one of the most important thing that the companies need to focus is the leadership trust is important. I've seen a lot of times companies do the right thing, but when you see leaders, and that's why I talk about when I started my company, what I do is I educate, engage, and I empower organizations to be truly inclusive from the bathroom to the boardroom. And when I say that, it's important because inclusivity is right from the bathroom all the way up to the boardroom. So when you see diversity in the boardroom, if it's all fully men, then you have a problem in these companies. If you see only white men, or if you see only brown men, or only people from the only one particular culture, then it's important to have the diversity, because you learn to also create that and this is especially in the US context works more. It works. So when you talk about allyship is about being there for another person, standing up and speaking up for them when they are not there. And that's the important thing. When George Floyd was murdered, there's been so many black men who have been murdered, more black women who've been murdered across the past 200 years. It's always been happening. Why did George Floyd become a big, I would say, a noticeable event? It's really because people were sitting at home and they were always looking at the news. And when George Floyd issue happened, it was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And that's when it triggered a lot of people to really see the issues closely, because they're always walking away. They're always walking away. They're not seeing the issues. And I asked my black friend, I said, hey, how can I be an ally for you? And he said, Celia, first thing is learn about what you're going through, like educate yourself. The second thing is stand up for me when I am not in that space. Speak up for me when I'm not in that space, and show up for me when I'm not in that space. And I started doing that. And I started educating myself, and I started going up to these places. And when I started being an ally for someone else, and that's how I learned, and that's what I also tell people, just first acknowledge your privilege, that you are in a position to be an ally for another community. Men need to be an ally to women. People from other countries, like an Asian person like myself, should be an ally to a Southeast Asian person, a person from Japan. And you can be an ally to me. And we all need to be allies to each other, not just because we are LGBTQ, but that's also part of it. But we need to be allies for each other, acknowledge your privilege, and also have these conversations. I will close with that, but I'm going to have that discussion in the later part of our conversation. Companies are performative these days. They just wanted to do it. They hired a lot of black folks, and they brought in chief diversity officers who were black, and they thought they're going to solve the problem, but actually never solved the problem. It was never happening. Inclusion and was actually causing exclusion. There are a lot of people who are feeling excluded from the fact that there are only one minorities who have been included. And I have been part of so many conversations in companies, and I found that companies are very performative. Like when Budweiser issue happened, they withdrew that. Target has not had any pride displays this year because they had some backlash from some hooligans. And Target has decided that, oh, we are not going to sell this because we are so careful. We want to protect our employees. I'm like, what the heck have you been doing? Just get the security, beef up your security. And in fact, you can have police there and arrest these people. And they just come up with excuses. And there's a lot of companies that are backing down. And that's where, when companies back down, it's because the leadership is not doing the right job. When the leadership is not doing the right job, people lose the trust in the leadership. They don't trust the leaders because the leaders say, hey, I'm an ally for your community. When the Asian hate was happening during pandemic, I have not seen leaders actually stand up and say, oh my God, I have to be supportive for all the Asian community here in San Francisco, because a lot of them are getting murdered. There were a few of them who got murdered in Irvine just because they're Asian. They're Chinese and they're from Southeast Asia. And even so there are lots of issues that were happening, and the leaders were not stepping up. And when they started doing that, and when leaders are mindful about their own community, their own company, they need to show a transformative allyship. Allyship is transformative, it's not performative. And when you're selling something, Mana, I was thinking about one other thing. And even Tiffany, you're talking about people, right, calling you sir and ma'am. in my life, especially I'm 55 years old, and I've been, through so much traveling here and there. And sometimes I just ignore people when they call me because I sometimes think that I'm going to give you grace because I know you don't mean it. You can educate people who are ignorant, but you cannot educate people who are arrogant.
Mm.
So it's easy if someone misgenders you and they're calling you this and you letting it go because you're like, I know you're just trying to be respectful based on the culture. I'm going to let it go. But there are people who are arrogant, like exactly like you said. The police sometimes pulls me over and then they look at, they call me, ma'am, can I have your license and registration? I pull up my license and it says Daniel in there. And it has an X as my gender. And the police then stops calling me ma'am, but he doesn't call me sir, but they stop you calling me anything. And it kind of bothered me because you just called me ma'am like 3, 4 times even while I was talking to you. And now suddenly you stop calling me ma'am because you saw my license. Are you just going based on what the legal document says? Though I'm a human being sitting right in front of you and conversing with you, and you're still stop addressing me because you're slowly taking away the respect from me. You're taking the value of who I am. You're now telling me that I'm not going to take you seriously because your document says something and you look different. So it bothered me quite a bit. So what I did was I went to the police stations. I went to the police station. I started having conversations with the police chief. And I've been doing this for a while in LAPD, in Hollywood Police Department, and in my local county. I've been doing, you've probably seen a lot of LAPD shows. I've actually been in those places and I try to educate the police department. But one thing that recently I did a couple of weeks back, I was invited for a police officers training course where they invited me. I was the only LGBTQ person. I think I was the only trans person. Maybe there was one other person who was gay. But I was the only LGBTQ transgender person who was sitting there among all the DAs. There were a lot of district attorneys, there were a lot of police officers, there were people from the state, and a lot of them are in a very high position, and they were all police officers. Most of them are from the army. And I was the only person who's probably a civilian there. And I was telling them a lot of things about this. And then it registered in the minds that, oh my God, we never thought about it. And I said, put that in the training. Put that in the training, put that in the training, put this in the training. This is how you do it. And I've started now giving feedback to the training courses because that is called allyship. And when I was doing that, I was not just doing for me, I was also doing for people with disabilities because a lot of 70% of the trans community, they have mental health issues. So to me, when I see a person with disability, when I see a veteran, my heart goes out. When I see a person from another community who's Black, my heart goes out. I say that, okay, I'm going to be an ally to you. What can I do? And that's what I did in that police department training where I was started talking about allyship for the LGBTQ community, not just LGBTQ, but disabilities as well. See, now I'm speaking too fast, right? And so that I'm going to slow down because that's the Asian part of me, just like, ah. So I started doing this because I'm trying to get across some point within the given time today. But the most important thing, like I want to share about allyship is it's not performative, it's transformative. And I'm learning a lot, especially at Tiffany and Mana, from what you're sharing today. It's interesting.
Thank you, Celia. Transformative actions. I love that. So, Manasang, how can organizations ensure that their allyship efforts are inclusive of all intersections within the LGBTQ plus community?
Oh, that's a hard question. I was trying to something different. I'm sorry. Can I?
Sure.
I'm not answering your question because that one is too big for me. I just finished my 17 hours duty. So, okay, let me just quickly mention about what's allies for me because I'm a cisgender and lesbian. And unless otherwise I say my sexual orientation, I can pass. See, I don't face the challenge of the Black pride people or trans pride people is facing. So for me, what's I really, really needed the mental support and moral support is when I fall into someone, when I broke up with women. That's the moment I felt so fragile, so isolated, so lonely, and I wish I don't born, you know. So yeah, let me share the ally kind of things, like at the very first experience, because I'm a 48 years old. When I was 22, I was in 2 years old, I was in Columbia, New York, but I didn't come out to anyone, any of my classmates. But I get close to one of my Japanese classmates, as she grew up in the States, so she had like very little abuse. And then we get closer, so she told me about all her love stories, broken up stories, and this and that. And then one day she asked me, like, manager, I kind of got a sense you're falling to someone. Then who is that? So I was like, oh shit, you know. And then it was over the phone conversation. I was so hesitated and reluctant. And she started guessing, like, oh, maybe Tomo here. Oh, no, maybe this guy. Or maybe that guy. You don't need to feel ashamed. Maybe the married guy, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. Then I finally come out and say to her that it's a Sheila. Sheila is the half Indian, half Korean American. And then she was speechless. She there was a pause of the moment of over the phone, like she couldn't reply. But she quickly, you know, reconsolidated. And then the first words she said was like, manager, you got a good taste. She's hot. And I was saved. Honestly, I was so saved. This is the very first moment I really come out to anyone that whom I'm get attracted to. And I was told, like, wow, you have a good sense, you know. Wow, she's hot, you know. But that was a very first moment I felt I was so saved by someone. And then there was the moment I got heartbroken. I always invite some lesbian friend, you know, I know of, and we always do the karaoke night, and that's only the heartbroken songs only night. So 2 hours, you know, you just pick up all the shitsuren song in Japanese shitsuren. So like, I mean, just pick up all the shitsuren song, whether it's a man to man, woman to woman. It doesn't matter. We sometimes change this like a C to the her to the he, and all this, you know, so that you can sing the song, right? So you can sing the song as you want. And then I always invite a friend. If someone's heartbroken, I always organize a karaoke night for her or him, or, you know, gay, lesbian, because we pass in a way. As long as we are cisgender, we don't need to disclose to anything. But when we are heartbroken, when we fall into someone, we need the moral support. So that's the thing for the allies for me, and then that's the things I really treasured. And I'm so glad. I think I'm here today because some of the people I really confess my feeling took it well. So that's it.
Thank you so much, man, for sharing your personal experience. I love that. Thank you so much. We have a question from the audience, and I'm going to read it out. If we or someone we care about are facing discrimination in workplace in Japan and in the US, what can we do? What are the steps to take to get help? You want to talk about that, Celia?
No, I can talk about US. I don't know much about the culture in Japan. Mana or you can talk about it. But in the US, when you facing discrimination in the workplace, the first thing you want to do is to help the person. You know, when you see someone, right? That's the question. You want to help them to make a complaint to the HR. And for you to go to the HR, you also need to make sure that the HR understands this is a problem. If they don't see that as a problem, then, you know, it's not going to go anywhere, because I have been in that situation where I raised a concern during an interview. And it never went anywhere because the HR didn't see that as an issue. They said, hey, they just misgendered you because they thought, you know, you were Daniel before and now you're Celia. So that's okay. And I said, no, that's not okay, because I told them when I'm like this, don't call me Daniel, right? Can't call me Daniel now. But I've been working in the company as Daniel, and I was in a call and they called me that. And it was very, I raised it to the HR, and I told the HR that you need to have the right policies, you need to have the right harassment issues, especially with the trans community. Like the women, you have harassment policies and also discrimination policies. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the companies have the right policies in place so that they take it seriously. And people need to know that when you are discriminating someone, there are consequences for that. You cannot walk up to a trans person and say, hey, I'm going to call you Daniel, and I'm your he, him pronouns. No, that is harassment, that's bullying. So the person needs to be kicked out. of the company, because the policy will enable that. And there are lots of things that we can definitely make sure. But I think it's important to be respectful in the workplace. I don't think people intentionally do it, but there are arrogant community, right? As I mentioned, that little arrogant community. There are some people in the workplace who says, "Oh, I don't care about your lifestyle choice. I'm gonna still, call you what you want." I mean, it doesn't work that way, because this is not a lifestyle choice, right? I'm wired differently, and I was born this way because I knew I was different since I was 4 years old. So I do tell my story a lot of times with the clients, and I help them understand these issues. So you have seen this discrimination, especially in the restrooms in the US, especially when you have gender neutral restrooms. When you walk into those restrooms, and women sometimes say, "Hey, I don't know why you're here," and that is actually it can be a discrimination, because I'm wearing a dress right now, and this is me. When I walk into a restroom, I don't know, I can't go to the men's restroom unless there is an inclusive restroom, but I want to use a ladies' restroom. I don't have a problem. I'm not just taking pictures there. I'm just going to do my job and get out. But people don't understand that, and sometimes that's why you have policies and harassment issues that you go through. But in Japan, I don't know. Maybe you can share.
Mm. Yes. Thank you so much, Celia. Amanda, do you have a
Yes. Well, actually, yeah, it really depends on the context. Just to let me talk about a little bit of a legal aspect, because many of the Japanese people are not even aware of. First of all, not many Japanese don't even know the meaning of soji, sexual orientation and gender identity. So when you say soji, I would say 60% of Japanese, even like someone in HR, don't even know the meaning.
Oh my God.
However, yes. However, the government introduced the soji harassment as the part of the sexual harassment. So they changed the definition of sexual harassment, and it's stretched into the soji harassment since 2020. And it's legalized in Japan. So every single corporate companies in Japan has to follow the soji harassment as exact equal way of treating the gender-based sexual harassment. So now company need to know that you need to educate someone. So first and foremost, that's part need to be clear. And if that's person who are getting harassed or discriminated, if you can talk to that person, tell them that in Japan, the rule has changed. Soji harassment, first of all, soji is this, and then soji harassment is now criminalized, and a corporate has to obligation to deal with it the exact way of the sexual harassment. And it is a very strong protocol for that. So you need to educate one by one, and especially those people who are discriminated, because many of the people are not aware of how much of the rights you do deserve and you have. And then in a very different context, I found many Japanese are xenophobic. And I found so many cases that the foreigners are discriminated in the Japanese corporate sectors. But first and foremost, in the linguistic way, those companies who call themselves a bilingual companies have never been a bilingual. I have never met any of these Rakuten people who speak a fluent English, for example. So it's a shame, but unfortunately, there are lots of xenophobic aspects in Japanese corporate sectors. But I don't speak out unless otherwise this foreigners or foreign corporate workers really want to address it. I would tell him or her that I will be your allies. I will do anything for you. I can speak fluent Japanese. I can make a very strong statement, but only if you want. Because some people never want to make noise. Because if you make noise in Japanese context, that you will be, dismissed, and then you will get out of the line, a promotional line one day. So yeah, just be cautious for that. But then when it comes to the soji, yeah, that's the things. You need to know there is it's a in Japanese government concept. Is now the harassment. So people need to know that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that, Manada. It's so interesting, like how Celia reacted to, like, oh really, like it's still in Japan we're so behind, and what's going on in America is like they're taking back all the rights now in America, and while we're still not there, even like having the rights. So we're
I
very
would say
behind.
let me say you guys got every single nice right, and then now getting
I know.
back to the old century in terms of the abortions and everything. Like you get everything now, and then you're just getting the rewinding the time and then putting the clock back to the ancient times. So yeah, I think it's very different space that both Japan and US are in.
Yes. So yeah, we're so behind
Yes,
when it
yes,
comes
we
to
are.
that.
We
Yeah,
are.
that's why it's so important to hear like Celia's stories coming from the US and how she experienced and how what's going on in the US right now when it comes to allyship and all these issues about trans and the LGBT community. The next question that I have for both of you, since we don't have any, by the way, to the audience, feel free to write down your questions on the chat box, or you can raise your hand if you want to ask questions to our panelists. Um, please do so. Thank you for that. Great question, Eileen. So my next question to Celia is, what are some common challenges or misconceptions that allies might face when they're trying to support our community and how they can overcome them?
Absolutely. I think what I've seen is, especially when I have friends who are white, um, they want to support us and they say, Celia, I'm a cisgender straight white man and I want to be an ally to your community. The first reaction that normally the trans people or person who's part of the community says, oh, I'm good. You won't get it. You won't understand what I'm going through. And they try to shun some of the help. But what I've seen most interestingly is there is an issue, there is a discrimination within the LGBTQ community. And I'm saying this with deep passion and empathy because when I came out in the US as trans for the very first time in my community, there were a lot of white trans people who, white trans women who actually told me, Celia, you're not really trans unless you medically transition. And I said, I'm not going to medically transition because I'm having cardiac issues and I can't transition. I'm an immigrant. I have property back in India and I can't just transition because I will lose my, I have to change my legal name and everything. It doesn't work that way. They didn't get it. They were like, oh, you're just a cross-dresser. You're just taking our attention here. So when I used to go for some of the support meetings, I was actually ostracized within the trans community. Interesting, right? And it's because of the human nature. As a human being, we always box ourselves. We put ourselves in a box, and a small box, and a small box, and a small box. And in India, I will tell you, this is so common, especially with the caste system. And I say this with deep passion for the Indian community. Indians are one of the most racist people on the planet. You can actually Google. I mean, it's just that it's part of your culture. It's been part of your fabric in the civilization. It's been there because everybody, even within the Christian community, within the Catholic community, within the Buddhist community, or any community you take, you feel that there's a small subset and small subset. So when I was ostracized, I found it interesting and I started talking about it. So almost for 8 months, whenever I used to go for support meetings, they wouldn't talk to me. They would talk to me, but they will all go for dinner, but they will not invite me. They were Black community, the white community, they were Hispanic community, and the Filipino community. They all had their own friends and they used to go for dinner. And I'll be waiting to see if someone is calling me. And when I saw that there was a big change, and it took a while, and then once I started becoming more noticeable, and I did a lot of things, and I did it. And one thing I found is I went outside the LGBTQ community, and I built my allyship there. It's a very interesting story because I thought if people within my own community doesn't respect me, then I'm going to go and seek to be a part of my allies. I want to be an ally to the Hispanic community. So the first thing I did was, you won't believe this. The first advocacy work I did was gun control. So I went to one of the rallies and I took a plaque and said, you need to have a gun control because there's violence. There's so much going on in the US. And anybody can buy a gun. It's just open. You can go to the Walmart has a gun. You can go buy a gun in Walmart. And I really appreciate the gun control in Japan because it's not that easy to get a gun. And in the US, it's just every Tom, Dick, and Harry can do it. So I started talking about it. Then I went to medical related areas and immigration related areas, homelessness. And they were not even LGBTQ community. They were just people. And I started being there for people and I started talking about healthcare issues and all that. And literally, I found that I did my advocacy to the point where I was in a room of 200 people sitting there and talking about healthcare equity, health equity. And I was the only trans person who just stood up and I was talking about trans issues. And the people in that room just turned back and looked at me, and they sometimes they were started taking picture of me because they had never seen a trans person. It was funny. And to me, allyship starts from really understanding each other. And I also found that when this person, white man, said, Celia, I want to be a part of a community because I'm coming to work and I lost my wife and I have two children. I need to take care of them. And I come to work and it's always, LGBTQ or disabilities. And I don't know what else to do. I want to be part of something. And I said, why don't you be a part of an allyship group? Why don't you be part of this, an LGBTQ group? He said, I'm not LGBTQ. I said, that's okay, but just be a part of it. And I want to know about you. I'm not going to create a white ally group because white people are the majority in this country. So, but I started respecting him. And today, most of my allies are white people and cisgender, even gay men. I have a lot of friends who are gay. And trans people and gay people don't get along in US in some ways because they feel like your issues are different. But I am the only, probably in my entire county, who has a great relationship with the people in the cisgender world, within the LGB world. And I started doing this because I was an ally to them, and then they became an ally to me. I think we need to make a step out of our comfort zone and say that, hey, I want to be an ally to the South Asian community. I want to be an ally to the Filipino community. And that is how I want to be an ally to the people with disabilities, to the veterans. So I started understanding veterans because my dad is a veteran. He fought in the Indian, in the war, and my father-in-law is a veteran. So for me, and I've been in the school army. They have something called college. I've used guns and I've been in different parts of the world, and I respect that. So for me, being an ally to another community helps them to be an ally for you. But you have to demonstrate that because they feel like, oh, you're LGBTQ. I want to be an ally for you. And I tell them, it's okay, I want to be an ally for you. What do I do? And they'll say, I don't know. I don't know. You want to be an ally for me? I said, yeah, you're a human being. I'm a human being. I want to be an ally for you. I think that changed the conversation. It really changed the conversation. And after many years, when Caitlyn Jenner came out in US, I live close to Malibu here. And that's when these people all came to me and said, hey, Celia, I know they didn't say I know but they said, we see you, we understand you now, because I said I'm not going to transition, and a lot of people, more than 50% of the people trans community, they don't transition because you don't have to. You want to live your life authentically, you live a life authentically. It's not about what's between your legs or between your head. That's nobody's business. We want to be a human being, and we just want to do our best in the workplace and be an ally. So I think that's what made me um, or I would say that's the best way to help the allies to be a part of who we are, and we need to be an ally.
Thank you so much, Celia. Live your life authentically. I live for that. Thank you. Manasan, do you want something to add to that?
Yes, okay. Now time is clocking, and being the
Yeah.
authentic Toastmasters, I like to finish this on time. So let
Yeah.
me quickly mention, and then make it in 2 minutes. Uh, One of the ally things I have done for the trans community or trans women is in Japan, we have a ladies discount. If all ladies go for the dinner or lunch, we can get the group discount of 20%, 30%. So I organized the Keio Dentetsu Bianokai, all these like a Keio line users, like we have a public transportation system. So those people who are living around the one private lines, the train lines, and then commuting and using that train, whether you're a lesbian or a trans woman, we can use this girls discount and have a dinner together. So I used to do it once a month, and then until the COVID-19. And I feel it's important to just like, trans women to be normalized and then feeling treated as the ladies and women. And I mean, that's a small support I have been doing, and that's kind of thing I feel like people take it more casually, especially the women, and then just like just do kind of some fun things. And one of the things I have been, or in Japanese context, we have been doing is like we have a national day for the girls. That's the 3rd of March, Hinamatsuri. That's celebrating the girl child. And the 5th of May, 5/5, is for the boys, like that's celebrating the boy child. So we celebrating the April 4th, which is in the middle for the gender fluid kids. And it's just like a small movement we started, and but still we call it Okama no Hi, like a day for the fag. But like name, it doesn't matter. It's just like the meant for the celebration for the kids as well yourself, that you live the childhood which doesn't belong to the 3rd of March or 5th of May. So we get together and celebrate this year also for the 1st of April. So that's the small things. And what I like to say is I love what Celia has mentioned, that you went for the gun control issues. Now, I love to say I worked in the international cooperation field many, many years, and I worked in the World Vision, one of the very strongest Christian-based organizations. So of course, it very homophobic. So I didn't come out. But when the World Vision specifically answered to the question that we don't recruit anyone for the management, any gays and lesbian for the management position overnight, because they have a child sponsorship project. Overnight, just one night, they lost 40,000 child sponsors in the States, just overnight. And the big corporate like a Google left the money from World Vision. It was a scandalous for the World Vision. And it is extremely important to say that, okay, being LGBTI taken up your life so much, to digest your life and then live your own life, but never forget to be connected to the social and live in the social justice, because there are so many people behind you that once some injustice said in a different context, that people get so upset and show all the synchronization happens. So I spent a few months as like a Sri Aurobindo ashram. That's my favorite ashram in India. And then that was made by the French women. Came to the India Pondicherry. And then what's I love about what she said is like, so many people ask about the difficulties on your life, your low cost, your whereabouts. But she said, like, you know what? You're only asked to just be happy and be good. Be happy and be good. That's all you're asked to live your life. And I still treasure the world. Just be good and just be happy. That's all.
Oh, thank you so much, Mana-san. We're getting close to 4:30 p.m. I want this last final question to both of you, since we have probably some allies on the audience. So what tangible actions they can do to show their support for us? Celia.
I put it in the chat here, so you can take a look at it.
Right.
This is the acronym for allies, and something that I came up with. So first thing is acknowledge your privilege, that you are in a position to help. The second thing is listen to the community, because all our stories are different, and you'll understand more. When you listen, you always also learn to unlearn a lot of things. Like you may have grown up in a different culture and background, but when you start, you also need to unlearn. I have unlearned a lot of things that I've learned because I've learned it in the wrong way. And so that is an important thing. And I is to instigate tough conversations and decisions in your company, in your workplace, and stand up for the community when they don't have policies, right? This is where it comes in. E is also like what we're doing right now, educate yourself. Educate yourself and also educate others. That's the important thing. Lastly, be supportive by being involved. It's not about giving money or just putting, not eating a Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A is homophobic. I mean, uh, I don't really care about whether Chick-fil-A is homophobic, but what are you doing about it, right? Are you going and telling Chick-fil-A that this is my transfer and we're going to get a nugget here and we're going to eat. So be supportive by being involved, be there and stand up, show up, and speak up for the community. So this is an easy way to remember the way what is allies.
Very powerful, Celia. Thank you. Mana-san?
Well, I just want to talk to the people who are listening this in Tokyo. There are three things you can do or you want to join. First is, of course, first and foremost, Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. Just Google it, and then you can see the website. You can apply it, and then you can come and see our meeting. So you're mostly welcome. Just Google Tokyo Rainbow Toastmasters Club. And number two is you should have fun. Like there is the night called the Gay Agenda every third Wednesday night at the Tokyo Comedy Bar, and I think I like to try the open mic this time, like this June. So yeah, it's open mic, and then also the professionals there. So yeah, just come and see. Just get close to us. And then the last but not least, my book will be. It's already in Kindle. It's 国際協力とプライド. 国際協力とプライド is already last Pride month of the year I published a book, but the English version is coming this June or then maybe July. So yeah, just check the Rainbow Pride and International Corporation. It is mostly about being lesbian, but also about living in a different context and different cultures. Because I think it's really important for everyone to know that being lesbian or being trans is just the one part of your beautiful aspects. So it's just like a one part of you. So it's not everything. So I really want everyone to just read the book or just approaching the Tokyo Rainbow and see and meet the actual people that they're so diverse and they're very talented. So yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so
absolutely.
much,
And you can join our Toastmasters
Mm.
as well in LA. Definitely can share the link. So anytime you want to join and see how the Toastmasters has been going on in LA, you can do that too.
Celia, can you type in on the chat like the link for Diversity Toastmasters and also your website as well? If you can share on the chat, as well as Manasa, I encourage you to share your Munakata Foundation and your book if you have like the link provided
Sure.
on the Zoom on the chat. Can you provide it
Okay,
on the
sure.
chat, please? While
Okay.
speaking to everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. This is what we call allyship. As we come to the end of this incredible event, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to everyone who made this gathering so special and impactful. First and foremost, a huge thank you to our amazing guest speakers, Celia, all the way from California. It's already midnight there, but I think it's already Pride also day, right? Like June 1st in California, in the US now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Mana Tanaka-san, thank you so much for joining us. Both of your insights, your stories, your expertise have truly enlightened us and provided invaluable perspectives on what it means to be an effective ally to the LGBTQ plus community. Your dedication to advocacy and inclusion is very inspiring, always inspires me. And we are incredibly grateful for your time and your contributions today. And of course, to all our attendees today, thank you so much for joining us, engaging with us, and showing your support. Your presence here today demonstrates a powerful commitment to fostering a more inclusive and supportive world. Each moment of attention you gave is a step towards greater understanding and allyship for our community. So thank you so much. By the way, we want to take a photo, if that's okay, to all our attendees today, to turn on your cameras. Let me hold on. Eileen, can you make everyone on the same? How do we remove? Okay, remove. Remove spotlight. Remove spotlight. I encourage everyone to hold on. We want to take a photo. Eileen, can you help me, please? Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. If you can open your camera, so only like you don't have to if you don't feel comfortable. We're just gonna take a photo. I see familiar faces. Thank you for joining us, Felicity. Chuck, thank you.
Say cheese. I take a photo. Say cheese. One more time.
Cheese.
Cheese. Good.
Thank you so much. Any last words, Celia and Manatanaka, before we close the
Oh, no,
meeting?
happy Pride and have fun. Stay in touch. I've put my link on the LinkedIn, so you can stay in touch. And this is an interesting journey for you to start. But please join the Toastmasters, Rainbow Toastmasters, and be a part of this community. Also, encourage your friends to join. That'll be great to see the value in it.
Thank you, Celia. Manasang,
Yes, happy Pride. Yeah,
happy
yeah. I hope.
Pride.
Yeah, just remember, just be good and then be happy. Be gay. All right. Good night.
Be happy and be gay. Thank you so much for joining joining us today. Felicity, Chuck, Marvin, Yoshiko-san, Olga, Eileen, Misko-san, thank you so much for joining us.
You're
We will
welcome.
share this. We will share this to the Toastmasters communities, and also I will share this to all the social media like that's why we're recording this, and also to my podcast. So thank you all so much for joining, and I really appreciate you all. Arigato, happy Pride! Let's celebrate this month.
Right.
Very
Thank you.
Happy
colorful.
Pride.
Right.
Celia, thank you for joining us, Celia.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Chuck, thank you for joining us.